you realize you're just a number and you're going to die at some point, and not to get too morbid, but when you have that feeling, you understand that it's a risk not to try. Like, why would I waste any second that I have on this earth not to try something new and chase a passion?
Welcome to the Infinite Financial Freedom Podcast, where we empower you with financial literacy and guide you on your journey to financial freedom. I'm Josh Mettle, and today I am here with Cory and Ryan, founders of the Wealth Juice podcast. This is going to be really fun. I've been a fan of their podcast, listened to 3 or 4 of those just last weekend, actually, and I'm excited to have these guys on because they bring forward with them the experience of interviewing over 300 entrepreneurs, investors, and they're going to bring all of that wisdom to us today. Now, in addition to that, these guys have put together over 80 rental units in their investment portfolio while running full-time W-2 jobs. So we get the best of both worlds. We get guys that are coming out of the W-2 world, becoming entrepreneurs, running a podcast, have investment properties. There's a wealth of knowledge from guys that are actually doing it right now. So without further ado, Cory and Ryan, thanks for being here, guys.
This is awesome, man. Thanks for having us, Josh. We don't often do the live ones. I'm excited for this today. So thanks for having us both on.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm stoked for it.
82% of entrepreneurs say that the lack of access to capital is holding them back from growing their business. And worse than that, up to a third of all businesses that go out of business this year say they've done so because of a lack of access to capital. That's why we created the Entrepreneur Capital Lines of Credit. If you're an entrepreneur and you need access to capital, click into the link in the description and get your pre-approval now.
All right, so your guys' background is pretty fascinating to me. So just let's start with, how did you get interested in making this jump from kind of like traditional W-2 path towards self-employed real estate investor path? Give us a little bit of the highlights there.
Ryan always loves when I tell our inception story, if you will. So I'll start and then I'll let him chime in. So I'm 33, about to be 34. And when I was 26, Ryan and I went to college together. We were good friends. We got into this. We were at Temple University in Philadelphia, and then we got into the real world, and we were like, okay, I'm not sure if this is what I signed up for. Am I going to do this for 30 years? Like this 9-to-5 thing. We were living together. I came home from work, and we were always having these conversations about like, I wonder how long we have to do this for. So we got, kind of got caught into the FIRE movement, and we started reading books and podcasts. And I was actually making a whopping $35,000 at my job when I was 26. And my boss said, hey, I can't pay you any more money, but what I can do is tell you that you should buy a 5-bedroom house and rent out 4 of the bedrooms to people that work here, so that you can save more money so that you can stay here. And this is somebody who owned real estate on the side I didn't even know. And that sparked my real estate investing journey. I didn't listen to him exactly, but I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath, lived in one of the bedrooms, went from paying $1,000 a month in rent to living for free. I brought my roommates with me. For the first time ever, I was able to save some cash. And I just knew that real estate investing from there was the thing that allowed my personal cash flow to start to elevate. So I was like, I have to do this. Like, I have to go all in on this. So I bought a duplex in South Jersey, $125,000. $300 a month in cash flow, did everything wrong, screwed the whole thing up, and sold it 3 years later for $100,000 profit. So that thing was like, wait a second. Yeah, I was like, I didn't 1030. I didn't 1031 it, but yes, I sold it, took the cash out, and then bought something, monopolied it into something else. So, but I say all this to say, Ryan saw I was doing this, and he's like, I want in, dude. Like, we've been talking about it. Let's do it together. So we started our social media, our podcast, and our real estate investment company together when we had 2 units. So I was talking about real estate when I had no business to be talking about real estate, but I was taking what I learned from Bigger Pockets and thinking, you know what? I think people want to follow along in the journey. I don't think they want to hear top down what happens in 1996. Now I have 1,000 units. I think they want to hear the people going through the trenches. So Ryan and I started this together. We started to buy properties together in South Jersey. Our podcast grew, our network grew. And, just to fast forward you a little bit, the reason why we own 80 units is because we interview cool people like yourself, where we're able to form partnerships. So we own an 18 unit, a 10 unit, a 43 unit, and a 7 unit. in other markets outside of our backyard because of the network and the organic foundation that we built through social media and our podcast. And that's why we do it to this day. So I kind of left you. I don't know if I left you with much, Rye, but that's our inception story.
That's why I like you tell it, dude. Go ahead.
Knocked it out of the park. Let me ask you a couple questions. I was scribbling down some notes here. Somebody gave you the advice to go buy a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, rent out those other units. A lot of people get similar advice to that and they never do it. What helped you get over the fear of signing on that first mortgage, taking on tenants? You got to figure out lease agreements, background checks, all the things. What helped you get over the fear to actually execute around that?
This is a really good question. I'm not sure that I have been able to precisely answer this question. I think it was being so new to like the working world and just knowing that what I was doing was not going to allow me to get to the position that I wanted to do. And every single person that I saw going to the beach on a Tuesday or taking his kids to school or going to the gym at noon, just basic things, they were creating wealth for themselves. They weren't waiting for wealth to happen to them. So there's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5. Ryan still works his 9-to-5 and has built this whole thing on the side. And I only left a year ago. There's nothing wrong with that. I think most people should leverage it. But I think the point is that if you are going to rely on somebody else to make money for you, to give you a disbursement of some of that money, eventually you're going to cap out. So my thought was, hey, I got to create this on the side for myself. And I think it was just Josh just not knowing what I didn't know. I didn't know that it was risky. I just decided that I was going to do it because I knew that other successful people were doing it. And I just took the plunge. And I mean, that's really my only good answer there. I just did it. And then all the mistakes followed. And then Ryan and I started to join communities and mentorships of people that were a few steps ahead of us that were showing us the way. When I said my goal was 1 property a year for 10 years, they're like, I bought 10 properties this month. You guys should be thinking bigger. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, if he can do this, are these guys or these gals much smarter than me? They really weren't. They just took the action and then figured it out, as I like to say, jump out the plane and build a parachute on the way down, which is hard for some people. But if you're around other people that are doing it every day, it gets a little bit easier. So that's the short answer, I guess, or long.
I think the wisdom in there is it might be easier to start younger, because if you crash and burn in your 20s, so what? You got your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s to make up for it. By time, if you think for a decade and now you're in your 40s and you got a bunch of kids to feed and all the other things, like it's actually harder, I think, to take that risk later on. And I don't know about you, but my first investment property was an unmitigated disaster. We bought an $85,000 condo. This is 25 years ago. By time we renovated the thing and got it on the market, there was 3 short sales in the condo complex. We'd lost 30% of the value once you took what we paid for it, plus what we put into it. The comps were like 30% lower, and we're like, great, we totally screwed this up. That led us to our first rental property. Fast forward 23 years later, we just sold that condo for about $375,000, and we've been cash flowing for 25 years, and that cash flow has grown. So we made a huge mistake, which turned into a huge win. But my point with that is you get to make mistakes at an $85,000 mistake instead of an $8.5 million mistake. Like, you want to make those mistakes and learn those lessons early. Ryan, what do you have to add to that, man? Anything from your standpoint as it relates to fear and pushing through fear to get into investing?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, and maybe this comes with maturity over time, and like as you weather the storm and go through life, but you realize you're just a number and you're going to die at some point. And not to get too morbid, but when you have that feeling, you understand that it's a risk not to try. Like, why would I waste any second that I have on this earth not to try something new and chase a passion? Cory and I were reading the books, listening to the podcasts, talking together. And then at some point it actually was the world basically crumbling during COVID. And we're like, well, we have literally nothing else to lose. It's already here. Armageddon's here. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's just try this thing. And there was that imposter syndrome of, hey, we have one unit. I had my primary, he had his primary, and he had another investment property. Like, we have no business talking about this, but we're going to study it. And anything we learn from the books, we're just going to talk about it on the podcast. Then someone gave us a shot, Chad Carson. We read his book, Retire Early with Real Estate. He said yes to our podcast episode like 10. And then you get one domino to fall. He's like, you guys are pretty good at this. Took one person believing in us to say, okay, well, we're never stopping. And then you get a connection from him, connection from another person. And then you're like, we kind of love this. This is amazing. And we don't have to pay $10,000 to get into a room with someone that's making 10 million a year. We can do it for free because we have a community. And now they want to share their story with other listeners of like-minded sense. So it just became this thing where we were able to organically network, and we didn't know what we didn't know, but it was taking that leap of faith. And I will say, it's very hard to do alone. And I think what allowed Cory and I to actually do this thing and do this to the level we're doing it is having each other. And when one person, you're never going to have a perfect day every single day, right? But as long as you're both not having a horrible day, to bring each other down, it's a really cool thing and an engine that keeps going to say, hey, listen, I know you don't want to do this today. I can tell, but I'm going to keep going and you pick me up tomorrow. And so it's this really cool thing that evolves over time. And then we've been able to bleed that energy into the podcast, into social media, to the personal brand, to the real estate portfolio, to our connections. And then now it's this kind of duo that we have where we get into a room and, if someone's talking to Cory and then I'm in the other room, we're spider webbing our network. And then people are like, I like those juice guys. They're cool. Like we talked about Jesse pre-show, he brought us out to his mastermind last October and we weren't able to go to the April one. And everybody's like, dude, where are the juice guys? Like they didn't come. And so it was this cool thing to be like, wow, we made an impact for people. So I know there's a long story short, but it comes back to at some point you have to hear something, read something, and just realize that the world is going to stop for you at some point. Why not just keep trying and do something new? And if you realize other people, like you said in the beginning of the episode, not to draw this out, it really hit me too. It's like, why are there other people driving the Bentleys and the Lamborghini? They're not that different than me. How can I channel certain chips on my shoulder to do what they do? Maybe I came from a little bit of maybe a better background than them. And I view people that come from absolutely nothing as, hey, they have nothing else to lose. They have a bigger why than me. I already have more tools in my toolbox. If I'm not leveraging this, that's a sin, man. Like, what am I doing? That's a waste of what I've been given. And then I also feel like you're given gifts. And it's like, half the people in the world don't want to talk in front of a microphone. They're not extroverted. They don't have this like courage to go out and do this. I'm like, sometimes you just have to push through and realize what you have. And it takes other people telling you. So I know there's a lot there. But I will say, coming back to it, like Cory and I joining forces has allowed us to push through a lot of fear because we can coach each other through it and just say, hey guy, at least we're in this together, man. If we crash and burn, we're going down together.
Great lessons there. I want to hit back on something that both of you all mentioned that I have found has been just an accelerator for me when I want to learn or get good at something. And you both mentioned, we decided to start a podcast and start teaching people before we knew shit about what we were actually doing. And I that is such a recipe for success. I'll give an example. I run a coaching company called the Loan Atlas. And inside of that Loan Atlas, we teach mortgage originators across the country how to be better financial and debt advisors for their clients. And we knew that AI was something that I had to master. Like, I'm going to masterminds, I'm going to seminars, I'm listening to CEOs talking about putting millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into AI. And I'm like, I have to be on the cutting edge of this. I have to be learning quicker than anybody else. And I said, I'm going to teach a 4-part series on AI to our coaching community. I didn't even have a paid version of ChatGPT at that point. Like, I literally knew nothing, but I put it out there. I scheduled the dates, and the acceleration that commitment to teaching that subject had on my growth level over the last 90 days, it would have taken me 2 years to get where I am over 90 days because I committed to it. And then I built the parachute on the way down, as you said, Cory.
Yeah, Josh, the key there for me is that you have to lead from a place of authenticity and telling people that I don't know what I don't know, and that's totally fine. I'm not trying to educate you something on something that I don't know, but if we can go through this together, there are so many people out there that are looking for the journey to relate to somebody who's going through the same thing. So when it was raining inside my duplex when I bought it, and I didn't know that you had to fix the windows, and I was getting texts from tenants on a flip phone that my place was flooding, I was telling the story about I had no one to call and I didn't know what to do. And there were people out there that were relating to this, like thinking, oh man, I made the biggest mistake of my life getting into real estate. And then all of a sudden I realized it was a $1,200 fix, and that property made me that $100,000 in 3 years. So the point of that, all that is if you're leading with authenticity and you're saying, hey, this is just our journey, I'm just going to be me and tell it like it is, I think everyone, most people, will relate way more to that than somebody that's trying to preach the good word of something that worked 25 years ago that doesn't work today. So that's why we created what we created, and we continue to do it today. We're buying in a different capacity, and now we teach people how to get their first property because of how much that changed the trajectory of our lives. So that is, I think that what my point is just leading with like, this is me, take it or leave it. This is how I am. And also trying to do good for others and bringing other people along with us was huge.
That lack of perfection and I have it all figured out is so damn attractive because people are real. They know that they're flawed and they would rather learn along somebody that's going through that journey. I couldn't agree with you more. I want to go back to this topic of fear for just a second, and then I want to move on to some of the biggest lessons that you guys have learned with over 300 podcasts now under your belt. I believe that people by and large are in this state of analysis paralysis, meaning they analyze so much they never jump out of the plane, and all the lessons are learned in building the parachute, as you said. That's such a great analogy. And I think one of the reasons why people get stuck in analysis paralysis is because the mainstream media is always trying to trick us. This was an ad that came over the Wall Street, came over Market Watch this morning. And the title is Google searches for help with mortgage haven't been this high since 2009. The uptick in interest in mortgage help has raised fears that another foreclosure crisis is looming. So, on one side, I'm listening to Wealth Juice. I'm listening to the Infinite Financial Freedom podcast. I'm listening to all these people have success. And then I open this up on my iPhone in the morning and I go, oh, I better analyze some more. What people need to understand is this is clickbait. They put these types of headlines together without the full story so that it scares you into reading the article. Your job as an entrepreneur, your job as an investor is to think beyond this, to recognize what it is and go, okay, let's do some research. So in 30 seconds this morning, this is the research that I pulled up. I went to the Fred website, which is the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, puts out all this incredible data for free from the government. And this shows you delinquency rates on single family residential mortgages. We are right now at 1.79% delinquency rate as of Q2 2025. It alludes to us being in a similar position of 2009. Sorry, Q2 2009, the delinquency rate was at 8.57%. So 700% higher in delinquencies. These two things have nothing to do together. Let's look at equity. This is household owners' equity in real estate. If we go back to 2009, you had, where are we here? Q2 2009, there was $9.4 trillion worth of equity in the US housing market. Today, $36 trillion in equity. So your foreclosure rate is a pittance of what it was in 9. Your equity is 4 times as great. And how about the housing credit availability index? This basically looks at the risk of mortgages being sold out there in the marketplace, both in terms of product risk, like is it stated income, stated asset, is it a negative amortizing loan, does it have a prepayment penalty? All those factors add risk. So this is product risk, and then there's borrower risk. Borrower risk is what's your credit score, what's the loan to value, those types of things. So the higher the number, the higher the risk of the mortgage. And you can see we got a little out over our skis here from 2005 to 2008. The risk was very high. The mortgages being issued today and over the last really decade is the lowest risk mortgages ever, like ever in record. So my point with sharing this data is you've got to get, as an entrepreneur, as a investor, as a risk taker, your job is to see those headlines, and your first thing that should cross your mind is bullshit. And you should get good at doing your own research and debunking that kind of stuff, because otherwise you get stuck in that paralysis stage forever.
Well, Josh, the media holds value in attention over truth. And I think anyone with a brain that's a free thinking person understands that, because clicking means dollars for advertisers. It doesn't necessarily have to be truthful. And that's a part of a bigger problem that we can get into that we probably don't have enough time on this podcast to dive all the way into. But if you have that within your brain to understand that large media corporations want to sell you on an idea that they deem to be correct, regardless if it's the truth, I wonder if the author of that, and I don't know this person, I wonder if they own real estate. I wonder if they're having conversations with real estate investors. My thought is they probably don't. But again, I don't know this person. So I say that because I think if you think with that, but if you're around real estate investors, for example, I'm a real estate agent right now. And what I'm seeing in the market is more properties fall out of contract because the qualifications to get a loan is significantly more stringent than it was. And I wasn't buying real estate in 2008. I was in high school, but I understand what happened back then because of the types of loans that were being given out. Now the qualifications are so much higher that the reasons that people are falling out of contract are because mortgage lenders are not willing to lend on people that are not qualified. So if that's what what they were referring to in the article, that's very, very, very different than saying that people need help and there's about to be another foreclosure crisis. So I think that getting around people who are in the game like yourself, like Ryan and I, to have the understanding of what is actually going on, boots on the ground. And by the way, sub-markets, tertiary markets, all of this matters. There is no one market. So to me, that's my response to that, is that you have to understand who you're getting the information from. And I do think that there is a significant growing problem in the US and across the world, is that it's very, very difficult to verify if information is truth. So what do? You talk to the people. That, as opposed to you get off the apps and you talk to the people, and you can use the apps to connect with the people in real time. So go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I have one thing to add to this too. I think there's a trust or a truth epidemic going on right now with social media. You have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but you see all these reels, right? And there's always people flaunting the cars and the big houses and things like that. Half the time it's rented, half the time they don't own them, and it's all marketing. That's exactly the article. All you're showing me is a different way of marketing. It's just trying to grab attention, pull you in to read it, scare you. And the scary part is here, like, the wealth gap is widening. And this is one of the things that I'm really passionate about today, is like, we're seeing the debasement of the dollar happen so quick between our eyes. And like, this is the wealthy or the people that study this, we see this, and the common person doesn't. They're like, oh, eggs are expensive. But for me, it's like realizing they're just continually printing money anytime we get into a problem. And there's this huge debt pile that we're not going to get out of. There's got to be some sort of solve. And there's one way, there's a couple different ways that are kind of attractive to do this. But one of the solve for the average person is to invest in real estate. This is how you protect your dollars and protect your wealth and grow it over time. It's not only the appreciation that you get the loan pay down, you get the tenants paying your cash flow. And so you have this asset that appreciates over time. We could give you, 10 to 20 to 30 examples of deals that have worked out for us that we're holding for the long term, just because it feels like your dollar's sitting in your savings account. All it is a melting ice cube. You don't see it. It looks whole, right? But from the bottom, it's slowly dripping away. And so that's the big fear I have for people, is like they read these articles and they're like, well, I can't do anything. And then they keep the money in their bank account and it just withers away no matter what. Where if you just take the risk, learn real estate, or learn something that's going to appreciate over time, even slowly dabbling into the stock market that goes up 6 to 12% a year, you're still helping yourself combat inflation. And so I think there's a lot to that, but really it stems back to, who do I trust? How do I know? Now there's AI out there, right? And half the influencers out there in the next year or two are going to be completely non-real people. And that's just going to be another thing. It's going to be, we could talk for 3 hours about that. But my point here is, you got to do your research and just realize, like, hey, real estate has made up 90% of millionaires for the longest time ever. It works. Now go within that, say, okay, I don't have to recreate the wheel. I understand it works. Now find a lane that works for you. Do you want high cash flow, higher risk? Do a short-term rental, try an Airbnb. Do you want slow, steady wealth? Build a foundation. You buy the single family, the duplex, the triplex, and rent it out long-term. Or within that, you can rent it out midterm. There's a lot of strategies within, but it's not that complicated. You have to analyze deals, learn how to analyze them. Now there's AI tools you can do in 2 seconds. Hey, does this property cash flow? Is this in a market that can appreciate over time? Do I have enough for a down payment? If so, bite the bullet and do it. And like, that's what we did. It took us a long time. Like, I can only give this advice now because I'm not going through it again. Like it's hard to give relationship advice to yourself when you're going through it, right? But I'm looking back at Ryan and Cory 5, 6 years ago. We're like, dude, just do it. Like if I could just grab my shoulders and like do it 10 years ago, I would have. So that's why we're so passionate about this first deal. It's like, once you realize you can do it and you did it once, you can do it 10, 20, 30 more times, or you can get into a big deal 2 or 3, and it'll set you up for life. So I know that was a lot when we were talking about specifically an article, but my point here is that's why people don't do anything, is because they read articles like this, they see the BS headlines, and they're like, this isn't for me, I can't do it. Then they wake up 20, 30 years and they're in the same spot, working for the same job, making the same amount of money. So I know that was a lot there, but that's my 2 cents on that article.
No, you're spot on. Inflation is absolutely robbing the value of the dollar. If you look back to when the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, we've lost 98.5% of the value of the dollar. Think about that for a minute. 98.5% is gone. So what is the smart money doing? To your point, Ryan, they're moving out of dollars as fast as they can. That's why the stock market's at an all-time high. That's why Bitcoin's near an all-time high. That's why gold's at an all-time high. And inflation is a friend to real estate if you are the owner, because not only is it pushing up the price of the real estate, but more importantly for long-term holders like us, it's pushing up the rents. So your mortgage payment stays the same, your rents go up, the delta is your cash flow every single year, and that delta growing hedges you against inflation. And oh yeah, you don't ever have to sell the asset. You can hand that down to your kids. And if you're smart and you do it through trusts and things like that, you can escape taxation and you just live off that interest for the rest of your life. So most people fear inflation. If you own a bunch of assets, you're kind of like, this is awesome. My rents, the first apartment building I ever bought, guys, the average rents were $285 a month. They now go for $1,595. And I charge for pets, and I charge for parking, and I charge for storage. That's 20 years of appreciation of rents. It's more than a 5X. It's crazy. Okay, enough about me. You guys have built an 80-unit portfolio while working full-time W-2 jobs. I know, Cory, you transitioned into full entrepreneurhood last year, but how the hell did you do that?
Well, this was a lot of trial and error, Josh. I would say that what we did in the beginning was we just did the single family. Ryan and I would literally save up our cash, deploy it, save up our cash, deploy it. And we would buy duplexes, single family, triplex in and around our market. And once we built a good enough team, we were coming up on episode 100 of our podcast, and people were saying, you guys are getting kind of good at this. Would you like to partner on deals with us? So we met people through our podcast and said, hey, you guys bring a skill set to the table, and I can find great deals. I bring a skill set to the table. Let's partner on deals. So that's when we started to become general partners. We built a following of people that know, like, and trust us, saw the social proof of us doing it on our own, and said, guys, I'm working a W-2 job. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. I want to put my money to work for me, but I don't have the time to go find these deals. Can I partner with you on them? So prior to us starting our mentorship program, where we handhold people to getting their first deal on their own, people were reaching out to us saying, hey, can I invest with you? So you have to go through the SEC regulations of whether or not it's a 506C and a 506B. We started out in the land of 506B, friends and family and people that we know, like, and trust, and that was reciprocated. So we partnered on a couple projects in the Northeast, an 18-unit in New Hampshire, a 10-unit in Vermont, and then 2 projects in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania, like a 7-unit bungalows that are rented out as like short-term rentals, and then a 43-unit like boutique hotel that we also rent out on Airbnb. And these are long-term projects, but we understand that we met a few people that really had the vision for creating sustainable long-term wealth, and then our limited partner investors jumped in and joined with us. And that's how we were able to grow our portfolio quickly, because Ryan and I thought, well, we could probably try to buy duplexes and triplexes and figure this out on our own, but it would take us a lot longer than if we partnered and parlayed our skill sets with other people who were doing this full time, who could beat us to the better deals. So the collaboration, as opposed to the competition, allowed us to get into larger projects. And then we still have our portfolio of our own, some of which we've sold off, some of which we'd played monopoly into other deals. But that's the foundation for us.
Ryan, what would you add to that?
I mean, I think you nailed it, to be honest with you. It's really just leveraging your skill sets. And it goes back to proving to yourself that you can do it. That's one thing I want to hone in on here, is like, once Cory and I got our first deal together, we realized, first of all, we bought our primary residences. And so we're like, okay, we know the process of buying a home, right? And it's not super complicated, but it is a process. So you're like, okay, I got over the hump. I did it once. I understand how the process works. Now it's like, how do I find one that's going to generate revenue? So then we go in together. We put both of our risk tolerances into this, right? We both like set up X amount of cash. We said 50-50, we're going into this. So we forked up dough, tried it, had to build a business around it. There's not just like, hey, you set a tenant in there, forget it. You have to manage it. You have to have SOPs. You have to have, eventually we hired a property manager after we knew how to manage it ourselves. But my point is, it's like riding a bike. We started with training wheels. Then you take off the training wheels, you can ride the bike two-wheeler. And then from there, you just scale up. And so when we proved to ourselves we could do it, we understood the risk. Then it's like, okay, we now understand how partnerships work. How do we go and get into other partnerships and vet people out to find an amazing operational team and build our team boots on the ground? Because a lot of times when we buy real estate now, it's sight unseen, and it's in other markets, like our specific market at certain points got too pricey. And we're like, okay, listen, we need to look outside of this. And so the beauty of COVID, once again, was we have Zoom, we have Google Meet, we have things where we can meet people all around the world and just have to talk like this. And we can fly out and see the property one time, but we don't have to be there every single day. So we're just leveraging technology and all these things. And now it comes down to, people, you guys, anyone that's trying to invest in real estate, whether you live in New York or California and it's way too expensive, it doesn't matter. You can invest in Indiana. You can, as long as you find the right people that are boots on the ground, an investor-friendly realtor, and someone that can manage your properties. It's kind of simple. And I say that now because we've done it so many times. So it's getting that first one under a belt that allowed us to get to the level that we are. And it's building that mental confidence. And I don't think people talk about that enough, because that's back to, once again, the article and all these things. If you don't think you can do it, you'll never do it. And so whatever you have to do to train yourself and give yourself the confidence to go try it, that's what you should do. And I would recommend for people that have not done this, and you've read the books, you read the podcast or listened to the podcast like this, and you've studied it and you're like, I have all this information. Now you need to go join the people that are doing it. I don't care if you have 0 deals, go pay to be in a group of people that are doing it every single day. Because guess what? You're going to be the next person that does it. I read the book. This is just a good reference for people that are listening. It's a small, easy read. It's from the guys that created GoBundance, a really big mastermind, which I love. It's called The Tribe of Millionaires. And it talks about building a tribe of people around you that are 10 levels above you. And if you want to get to that level, all you have to do is find any way to get into that room, whether you pay, volunteer, do whatever. And more than likely, they're going to have the hand reaching down to say, hey, listen, I already went through all that. So I'll show you the ropes so you can skip all the steps. You're still going to have to go through it, right? You're going to I can't do the work for you. But just know you're going to have a confidant, a little angel on your shoulder saying, hey, you got this, man. And sometimes that's all you need, is that little voice to say, you can do this. And back to our podcast, I believe in you. You guys are good at this. Hey, Cory, we did this deal together. Hey, it's going pretty well. We're cash flowing. Let's do another one. So it's just things like that. I think people stray away from the mindset thing. This whole thing is a battle between your ears. And if you don't think you're worthy of it, you're never going to do it. So whatever you have to do to remind yourself that you're worthy, that you're excited about it, dangle the carrot. I don't care if you want to print out the picture of the Lamborghini, print out the picture of the Airbnb in Tampa, whatever you got to do to get you excited for it and chase it. Get on that wheel, man. So mindset's big. That was big for us.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks, Josh. Those rants that he goes on. That's why. That's why I love him.
I love it. You better clarify that why and remind yourself of that why to get through those hard times. It was great. You guys alluded to your first-time investor course. Could you just give me a quick overview of what that course is about, and maybe 2 or 3 bullets of how you help that first-time investor or people that are just getting started in scaling their real estate investments?
Well, Josh, you know how courses are perceived on the internet, right? So we kind of like to stray away from that. It's actually not really a course. It's a direct mentorship program that Ryan and I help you within the next 3 to 6 months get your first rental property. Now, if you have 1 and you want to get to 2, come to us. If you have 12 and you want to get to 30, go to somebody else, because they can help you better than we can help you get in the game and get you started and hit that rocket ship button. But what we do is we handhold you through an 8-pillar system of how to get your first deal done. And that comes down to the mindset piece, to the analyzing deals, to building your team, to creating the actual roadmap that helps you get there. And then we give you and we plug you into our entire network that is the team that gets you done. And we have accountability calls every single week to help you get there. And you're talking to us. We're not putting you with people that we've built this massive organization. It's me and Ryan, along with other investors in our network that have seen success over the past year, helping you directly get to your first deal. So that is the avatar. If you're on the sidelines and you're thinking, man, I do want to do this. I have some cash set aside. I understand that this is the thing I should do, but I haven't been able to pull the trigger because of X. I've been stuck in analysis process for X amount of years. I'm telling you, the deals that we bought in the beginning, 2018, 2019, it doesn't matter what happened in COVID. The fact that I bought them years ago, you just mentioned a deal that you bought 25 years ago is 5X the rents. You just have to get in. And we're the catalyst that can help you press the go button because we know how much it helped us. And then once you have the first deal done, the second, third, and fourth are coming. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what we have within the community. Maybe I missed something, right? But that's kind of the deal.
So I believe given a long enough time horizon, anybody listening to this podcast could figure it out, right? If you've got 20 years, for sure you can figure it out. But why in the world would you want to learn a lesson and learn a path over 20 years when you can learn it over 12 months or 6 months? I tallied this up last year, and I've calculated that I've invested over $1 million in coaching groups, masterminds, live events. Like, for example, I've spent $12,000 in the last 30 days going to events and surrounding myself with the people that you guys are talking about. I just came back from the All In Summit. Have you guys ever listened to the All In podcast?
Yes, I've heard it. I've not too many episodes, but I've heard the podcast. Yeah.
They're like billionaires scaling massive businesses, and Elon Musk was the headliner speaker there. But to put yourself in a room to the point of what you just said, of the people that are beyond you, and you want to see what they're seeing further down the field than your view is, just the momentum that creates when you surround yourself with those people. And you only need like one or two ideas. I need 2 takeaways or 1 takeaway from that event that I can go put into my life that accelerate my journey from wherever I am now to the success I want to be having in my business and life. That accelerator is worth every investment. The big thing for me was there was a point where I went from thinking of this as a cost. I'm going to spend $7,500 to go to the All In conference, to I'm going to invest $7,500 in Josh. I believe that investment was better than $7,500 in Bitcoin. I think that investment was better than $7,500 into my next real estate deal, because I needed that pull. I needed that propulsion. I needed those lessons. So for anybody who's kind of early in that journey, you may not have come to that conclusion that you need to invest in your number one asset, which is you. That should be the asset that you're investing in. And then you start investing in the assets that grow. So I love how you frame that up. If you're trying to get from 1 to 12, you talk to us. If you're trying to get from 12 to 24, you go to somebody else. I love that you've narrowed your niche there. And I think it's really needed, because to your point, like, Kiyosaki can't tell you how to put together a team of single family folks in Wisconsin or wherever, or who to call for a toilet and how to keep those costs down, because he's so far past that. Like, he's not dealing with those problems. So you can relate to those first-time buyers.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Cory. I'll let you go here, but I just want to touch on the investing in yourself thing. I don't remember exactly when it happened with us, but we had to reframe our brain the same way, because, and I think most people are going to get here where you save up all this money in your checking or savings account, right? And you're like, I'm too scared to invest this in real estate. How can I invest this in someone else that's going to teach me real estate? It's almost ingrained in you as you're coming up in the world and society, right? Like to squirrel your money away and save it. And it just feels like this fear. So for us, we had to go through the first couple of deals of just trial and error, do it ourselves. But for us, that's what we're saying. Like, if we could go back, like we would have been at triple the units that we're at now and triple the wealth, because we would have been around it all the time. And it's one of those things. It's like, don't follow your emotions. You follow the plan. Like, you're not going to want to do this half the time. And that's the hard part. Like, everybody thinks, oh, we want to do the podcast every single day. We want to do real estate every single day. There's days that we're just like, not really. I want to just go travel the world today, And like, I think people think we're all robots. It's like, we've trained ourselves into discipline and consistency, for whether maybe it's because we work out each day, we get up early in the morning and but you have to do these things over time. What I'm saying is, like, you plan out your profession, right? You go to work, you build out your schedule, you color coordinate it. Great. You need to do that with your life too. Because if not, you're just going to keep doing the same thing for 30 to 40 years. And you wake up and be like, I just never tried it. And I have 4 kids and now it's too risky. I can't do it. And like, I don't know if my wife's going to be okay with this. I don't know if I can let my kids down. Like I'm at that point in my life where it's harder now. Like I have a little 2-year-old looking up at me and I'm like, well, I'm doing this for her now. And I'm obviously my wife, but I still have dreams and aspirations too, that I have to go on this risk curve of like, hey, how much do I want to leverage of our nest egg and our wealth to get to this next level and be who I said I would to me, but also let them live out their dreams. So I get the battle. Like I understand it. And I just think the investing, just don't squirrel your money away forever. Don't stick it in the 401k forever. Don't stick it in the brokerage account, the Bitcoin, save it up for real estate. There's no greater investment than investing in yourself, because when you watch yourself level up and change, it's the coolest thing. You're fulfilling some of your purpose, and then you're able to give back to other people. And I firmly believe that you're paid in direct proportion to the amount of people you serve. And that's the coolest part about both of these podcasts and all the offers that we all have. It's like, whose life are you changing? Like to know that I can, even if it's 1 to 10 people, I can have them get their first rental property and start to build generational wealth for their families and them. That's the coolest thing in the entire world. It's way better than me getting a property, because I'm watching them get excited and thank me. And like, it's making the world get better. And that's a weird thing. And I don't think in the beginning you could ever think like that. Maybe you can, but when you're going through the journey, it's like lone wolf. You're like, I got to get one. I got to do me. But now we're at this point and everybody else that was above us told us we'd get there. And they're like, dude, just wait. You're not going to care anymore. You're just going to want to help other people and watch them. There's no better gratification. You feel like you're on the right path, doing the right thing. So it's really cool. Our journey of like looking back 5 years ago to now, it's like, we're completely different. We're same guys, but more weathered. And we're like 5 years veterans of business owners, and you go through so much. And overall, I'd say, don't be afraid. If you can take any advice from us, all of us in this room, is like, invest in yourself early and often. And it's going to pay 10 times more than investing in that stock and squirreling that way money in that 401k, or even in that first investment property. Like, make sure you're taking the time to put away some cash for you and invest in you. And, all of us can help guide and teach you the ropes. There's a lot of good people at the top. We found there's a lot of collaboration at the top, not so much competition.
100%. Truer words were never spoken. That's a great way to end that. So we got 5 minutes. You guys got to roll to another podcast. I want to leave with this question from each of you. Of the 320 or however many podcasts you guys are up to now, somewhere around that number, who is the guest that has left the strongest kind of indelible impression on you, or helped or taught you a concept that changed your thinking and propelled you forward, that you could share maybe that lesson with us?
This is a difficult question because I don't want the recency bias to come into play of just people that we've talked to recently. We've been doing this for 6 years. So I have a couple answers to this. One person I can think of actually is David Green, that we had on episode 50. And I think we had him back on like episode 120 something. And I think that the only reason is because when somebody that's levels above you, and this is why I enjoyed our conversation yesterday so much, Josh, because you are levels above us, to have somebody believe in you, to tell you that you're on the right path, even if it's just a word, that is the impression that made the most sense, or made me go harder and press the button to go harder. And it was as simple at the end of this. He's like, how long you guys been doing this? Like, about a year. He's like, you guys shouldn't stop. You should keep this going. This is really something cool. And that was at the end of our podcast. And so I know Ryan mentioned something about that earlier with Chad, but I wanted to bring it up with David to have somebody that I was like, I'm listening to him on Bigger Pockets, to have him say that was the thing that propelled me forward. And then the other person, he's very stealthy. So I'm just going to mention his name. His name is Chris. And if you look up the Stealthy Rich on Instagram, some people know. If you know, you know. But he has, when somebody takes the podcast conversation offline and then they dive into your world and give you real life advice, and you text back and forth and you have calls and conversations and Zooms, and they take a vested interest in your success, that to me has had the most impact on me. And he's built a real estate portfolio of over 100 units. He's pivoted some of that to Bitcoin, and he was telling us about the thought process of how he became a decamillionaire wherever he is. Don't quote me on that, but he's very wealthy. And I've thought about how those people have reached down to us, if you will, and pulled us up. So it's not necessarily a conversation or a word or a phrase or a quote, but more so the people that have a vested interest in watching us succeed and recognizing that maybe there is a little talent there with these guys. I'd love to stay in their world. So to me, that's the biggest impact. And I don't know if I totally answered the question that you were asking, but that's where I went. That's where my brain went with this.
It was a great answer, and you guys should go to Wealth Juice right now and look up those 2 episodes. I listened to The Silent Millionaire, but not the one with David Green. So I'll go listen to that one next.
I have 2. I'm not trying to cheat here, but I have 2 as well. So, and they're different than Cory's, which is cool. It's awesome just to hear who impacted. I actually wouldn't have picked David for Cory. I love that. So they were great episodes for me. And I don't like just always pushing it back to bigger pockets, but for us, these were the guys' names in shining lights that we looked up to so much. And when we had Brandon Turner on our podcast, I finally felt like, wow, we made it. And there's nothing cooler, at least for me, going through this journey, when I've read all the books that they've written and you get to talk to them face to face and realize they're just a human being that took a massive amount of risk and made it and is just a good human being. He was the coolest, nicest guy, also complimentary. But to see him across the screen from us, from his Maui little shack that he does his podcast in, I was like, damn, like we made it, dude. And we had amazing questions. He complimented us and he had amazing answers. And I go back and I listen to that episode all the time. And it's just a piece. It's funny to listen to where we were on our journey at that point. I used his book, the book on rental property investing, as my Bible when the first 4 years. I had it in my passenger seat of my car and I was highlighting it. I'm like, dude, you paved the way for me. And you showed me that you can also do the podcast thing too. So Brandon Turner, bar none for me. Another one that maybe not everyone knows his name, but it's actually, it's how we got connected here. And it's one of our friends. His name's Jesse Ray. And it's our relationship with Jesse actually started. He was cold DMing us as we were going through the journey when we, had a couple of units and then we scaled up and he reached out to us. He said, hey guys, like love your podcast. Another 3 months go by. He's like, hey guys, thinking about buying my first unit. Hey guys, bought my first property and I'm running it as a co-living. I'm going to net about 70 grand this year. And I was like, damn, this guy's doing it. And he's telling us what he's doing. He's like, just want to give you a shout out. Thanks so much for being so impactful for me. You're my mentors without even knowing it. I'm like, dude, this is the coolest thing. Who is this guy? I don't know. Then we get one more message from him. And he was like, hey guys, Jesse checking in again here. Just to let you know, I got my second property. I'm also running it co-living. I'm about to net 180 this year on both my properties. I have retired officially from the W-2 and I wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys. And he did it before we left ours. I was like, dude, this is why we're doing it. This is 100% why we're doing the podcast. And you know what? We said, Jesse, what's your cell phone? Let's hop on a Zoom. We met face to face immediately after that, asked about his whole journey. He started Growth House and he has the Growth House podcast. You guys should all go listen to that. But then from there, he also was like, hey, I'm starting to host meetups and live masterminds. This is before we started our mastermind. He's like, you guys should come out and, come to the mastermind. And he's like, maybe there's a way for us to join forces. And in October of last year, we co-hosted his mastermind with him, our branding together. We had our logos up. We interviewed like 16 people out there. When they would come, they'd pull up in their really nice cars. He mostly had 7 to 9 figure entrepreneurs, as you may know, Josh. And we had the Lambos pull up, the G-Wagons, people that were like, this is what I got I want to be around those people. I'm like, to the point of hey, these guys have this. I want the big life. I want to know it's possible. They're pulling up, the drones are flying around, shooting videos. And then we're interviewing them on the podcast. And I'm like, that's me. That's what I want. And to have it so close and touch it and be part of it. I said to Cory, I'm like, dude, I feel like we made it, dude. This is it. If we can just transition and do this full time, then we're good. I'm good. So those 2 people, Brandon was the motivational, hey, the mentor, the person, they say, never meet your heroes. Well, I met him and he was a badass and he was awesome. And then Jesse, someone that we impacted and now he's impacted us a ton, allowed us to meet Josh. It's full circle, this whole thing. And I firmly believe things happen for a reason. You meet certain people, they impact your life. And just to put a bow on it, go listen to the Growth House podcast. And, the episode with Brandon Turner was amazing too. So
Jesse's also been on our podcast. You guys have had him on your podcast, so you should go listen to those interviews where we're interviewing Jesse. I think you'll learn a lot from him. And if you're interested in going to this event that they're alluding to, it's called Immersion. So find Jesse Ray on Instagram, follow him, DM him, tell him you're interested in Immersion. In closing, guys, where the hell did an hour go? Like, this was a really great podcast. You guys got a jet. How do people find you and keep up with you and learn from you?
The best way to get in touch with us is Instagram. If you want to talk to us, we reach out to all of our followers. So follow us on Instagram at Wealth Juice Official. You'll see it's co-branded Ryan and I. My face is on there a lot. I'm doing a lot of reels. And we post every single day there. And then the Wealth Juice podcast. You want to get to know us for an hour and a half. You really want to dive in on what we got going on and the guests we have on the Wealth Juice podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, YouTube, Rise and Mastermind behind our YouTube, the Wealth Juice Official on YouTube. But Instagram and the podcast is the best place to get in touch with us. And we look forward to developing relationships with anyone listening. That's what we do, is we build relationships, we amplify voices, and we help people get in the real estate game. So thanks for having us on, man. This is awesome.
You guys are studs. This was a super fun podcast. Let's do it again. You guys got to get out of here to go to your next podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today.